1. The issue of the soul and karma.
Question: Dear teacher, I heard people say that after death, people have a soul that exists and then reincarnates, without any karmic consequences. Is that true? Please give us a clear answer.
Answer: The question after death is whether the soul exists or does not exist, and where will the soul of the dead go? This is a very complicated issue. It's difficult to prove. There are many different interpretations of this issue, depending on the interpretation concept of each religion, and depending on each person's beliefs. However, when Buddhists establish belief in something, we need to examine and understand the issue with reason and through careful testing of arguments, and should not just listen to that belief. Especially for those who talk nonsense, without a solid argument and without any belief. It is better for us to be careful while listening to what others say, through the above question. If I had to explain it clearly, it would be very lengthy. Here, we only rely on the Buddhist point of view, but would like to present our comments through a few crude comments, but the issue of believing or not is up to each person, saying that after death, humans still have a soul that exists and then reincarnates, without any karmic retribution. According to Buddhism, that concept of explanation cannot be accepted. Buddhism does not accept an immortal soul, because that is the way of pagans. In the past, during the Buddha's time, there were two pagan sects who proposed two doctrines. One was eternal view, and the other was annihilation view. The ordinary view sect believes that the human soul will always be human. No matter how much crime it commits, it will be reborn as a human after death. On the contrary, the Don Kien sect believes that after death, people do not have a soul that exists in the next life, meaning they are completely lost. They have such an attachment, so the Buddha called them the annihilation sect or the annihilation view. Because of such concepts and beliefs, they are free to do evil, because there is no retribution for their sins in the next life. These are two sects that cause great harm, greatly disrupting order and peace in society. These two sects, according to their policy, do not have cause and effect. But let's not forget that cause and effect is a universal truth, implicit in all things and governing everything. No species can escape cause and effect. Because Buddha, after enlightening the truth, told us so, because based on the law of cause and effect, Buddhism proposed the theory of karma. Whatever karma we create, sooner or later it will have results. Buddhism does not accept such an immortal soul, because that means falling into the pagan way of clinging to gods and ego as mentioned above. According to Buddhism, everything is born from causes and conditions. Karma is also formed from cause and effect. According to Buddhism's theory of dependent origination, there is the theory of dependent origination. This theory belongs to the Mahayana teachings. Alida is the eighth consciousness after Manhana consciousness. This consciousness is also called store consciousness. It is the master consciousness that contains all the seeds of good and evil. Say store consciousness, because this consciousness has three functions: store energy, storage, and ego-clinging store. Concealed ability. This consciousness has the ability to contain all dharmas. Storehouse is the ability to contain the seeds of all dharmas. Because of these two functions, when we create good and evil karma, all of those good and evil seeds are stored in this storehouse of consciousness. When there are enough causes and conditions, those seeds arise and take effect. The seeds, are stored in this warehouse, called karma. It is this karma that actively follows conditions and continues to be reborn in the next life. Buddhists call this the continuation of the cycle of birth and death in the six paths: heaven, human, asura, hell, hungry ghosts, animals. Thus, according to the theory of dependent origination of karma and allied to dependent origination of Buddhism, each thought, word, and action of the three karmas, body, mouth, mind, and creations of us are stored in the mind. This storehouse of consciousness is exhausted, not a single good or evil seed is left behind. For example, in a plot of land we sow many different types of seeds. When we first sow them, we don't see them sprout. Because we don't see them, we think they are lost or not sprouting, but when it rains, the soil gets wet. Then they sprout again. When it germinates, each variety germinates according to its own variety. Like orange seeds, chili seeds, guava seeds, etc. Each grows differently, they are never mixed up. When the fate is not enough, they lie there, never lost. Likewise, if in this life, we collect many good seeds such as reciting Buddha's name, doing good deeds, doing meritorious deeds, etc., into our store consciousness, then those same seeds have the ability to lead us to a good realm. Born, to continue to enjoy the good retributions that we have created in this life. Buddhists call it karma. On the contrary, if we create bad karma, it will be the same. It should be said that life depends on karma. You should know that karma is an action repeated many times that becomes a habit. When this habit is mastered, it has an extraordinary power to bring forth feelings according to conditions. Like people addicted to gambling, they look for a place with a casino, then they jump in and play. People who are addicted to music go to find a music room to sing, etc. When forming habits, of course there are good habits and bad habits. Good habits or bad habits, once infected into a serious addiction, it is that habit that leads us, depending on our preferences, whichever habit or hobby is heavy, extremely heavy karma, then it has a very strong ability to find a suitable environment to be born, so it is called karma. Regarding this point, in Kui Sun Kansach, Patriarch Kui Sun also said, like a human being, a strong person has an immortal shield, his mind is self-sufficient, and he is heavy in the land of heaven. Meaning, like a debtor, whoever is strong pulls first, there are many worries in the mind, the heaviness falls away. We often hear in the sutras that when people die, their consciousness emerges. Speaking of spiritual consciousness, it is the consciousness of alaya karma, to put it clearly, the seeds of good or evil have formed into karma. And it is this karma that is the clue to being reborn in the next life. Because people don't know, they think there is a reincarnated soul. The word reincarnation means that there is a soul that jumps into the fetus to conceive. Understanding it like that, it is not consistent with the two theories, karma and dependent origination, of Buddhism as mentioned above. It's not like there's a soul that goes this way and that to find a way to get into a certain place. According to the theory of dependent origination, we do not accept that concept. Because in this consciousness there are all the seeds of Asrava and the seeds of Asrava. The outflowed seeds are the seeds that, depending on conditions, give rise to the myriad of miracles, that is, the phenomenal world. As for the seed without outflows, it can lead to liberation. In short, someone says that after a person dies, a soul exists, reincarnates, and there is no karma at all. This, as we have temporarily outlined a few explanations above, is important. That concept is not correct. In the book Kui Sun Kansach, Zen Master Thich Ton Tu's explanation on page 77, there is a passage where the Venerable Master said, "Worldly people think that everyone has their own soul, which is a wise and wise spirit, but if you are wise, why do you put yourself in a place of suffering?" Everyone thinks that after death, their soul will be born as a human again, and they firmly believe that soul is themselves. Buddhism calls it consciousness. This consciousness comes according to the accumulation of good and evil, and is not fixed. Because it is not fixed, it is not wise to choose, but only depends on karma. Consciousness differs from soul in that way. If we say we have a soul, it would seem like it is a single spirit. If it were only fixed, then good and evil would never change. But our minds are always changing. When we are close to good people, we absorb good things, and when we are close to evil people, we absorb evil things. Thus, the mind is a stream of good and evil that arises and passes away. It is that stream of good and evil that will take us to a good or bad place. Whichever karma is heavy will drag us down first. That is what Kui Sun meant when he said, "The land of heaven and earth falls." Thus, Buddhism does not accept that there is a soul that is always the same, and even more so that it does not accept that soul is reincarnated as people mistakenly think. Also saying that there is no karma at all, according to Buddhism, this concept is considered to belong to the category of Nhakantika people, that is, they do not believe in anything. These are the type of people who do not believe in cause and effect. Not only do they not believe, they also deny cause and effect. With people like that, it's really difficult for us to exchange explanations with them. As mentioned, the theory of karma is based on the time dimension of cause and effect. People who say like that, I think, they have not learned about the theory of karma. And I don't understand what karma is. If you don't understand, it's better to find out, not to talk stubbornly and bring suffering to yourself. What a terrible disaster, and how pitiful it is. 2. Are fate and karma the same or different?
Question, dear teacher, I don't understand clearly whether destiny and karma are the same or different. Dear teacher, please give me a clear answer. Thank you, Master.
Answer. According to Confucianism, when people are born, each person has a predetermined destiny or destiny. That's why people often joke that shoes have a number. Although this is a joke, the underlying meaning is to say that each person has a number, which has been predetermined and arranged by a certain hand. Like success or failure, dishonor and honor, joy and suffering, etc., everything in life is arranged by heaven. That's why there's a saying, one thing is wet, one thing is smooth, the stage is predetermined. That means every bite to eat, every bite to drink, are all arranged in advance. According to Buddhism, for things that happen, people must receive them. Calling it karma. Karma is the cause created by us in the past, now we are born and have to suffer, such as disability or illness, etc. Karma is the cause created, retribution is the result that must be paid. Thus, if we stand in terms of availability, both sides acknowledge the same, the differences between each person, right from the beginning in life, are proof of that. Who established this difference? No said, the number has been determined in advance. Buddha said, first karma causes it. That means both sides admit there is something pre-existing. It's just that they use different words to describe it. One side talks about numbers, the other side talks about karma. Thus, both sides, between Confucianism and Buddhism, accepted the same. However, if we look deeper into this issue, we see many differences. Different in causes, origins, feelings, conversions and institutions, etc., about causes and origins. People who believe in destiny or heavenly destiny cannot change for the rest of their lives. If you are destined to be poor, you will be poor all your life, unable to raise your head. On the contrary, the same is true for rich people. Thus, we have to give up and resign ourselves to the predetermined mold, unable to escape for the rest of our lives. If so, then what is the value and meaning of life? Destiny makes us happy, then we are happy, destiny gives us suffering, then we suffer. It means that we let everything go, surrender to fate, wherever we go. Thus, it is true that I am a helpless, irresponsible person who entrusts my identity to a vague fantasy that I do not know. In the spirit of practical science, no one can accept this problem. So, if we consider the cause and origin, we don't know who caused it, just blame it on fate or God and it's over. Buddhism, with its theory of karma, does not accept that. According to Buddhism, anything that happens in this world, whether small or large, whether visible or invisible, must have a cause. There is no such thing as a natural or random thing. According to the theory of karma, in this life we suffer or experience joy, it is the result of the previous life or many previous lives, which we caused. No hand can create strength for me. I take responsibility for myself, do not blame or blame anyone. If you have brought karma into your body, don't blame the heavens near or far. In this life, we were born poor, living in a miserable situation, because in our previous life we did not practice almsgiving. When we see someone poor, hungry, and thirsty, we turn a blind eye, without the slightest bit of compassion. Pointing out such a small thing, from there we can consider hundreds of thousands of other things. About feeling and conversion or institution. People who believe in fate think, how can one change the number? Especially when fate is determined, and who dares to interfere? Heaven has decided, don't dare to disobey heaven. Buddhists who believe in the theory of karma are not like that. Because karma can be transformed. Therefore, it is said that cultivating is transforming karma, like people in the past who had a hot-tempered or angry nature, now they know how to practice and change it to get rid of it. Or like a person who is addicted to gambling, drugs, alcohol, etc., because he was previously confused, he created many hardships for himself and for others. And from there, they have a changed life, peace and happiness for themselves and their families. Then, karma can be changed from bad to good, rather than being rigidly fixed, in the way the heavens call for stars. If we believe in an immutable institution, this society will not improve, and everyone will leave it to fate and will not be able to progress. So, how can individuals, families and society progress? People who believe in fate, based on prejudice, can only sit there with their arms crossed and wait for death, with no way to change. So where is human responsibility? And so, society will become backward. In short, there is a very big difference between destiny and karma. The only difference is the availability as mentioned above. Besides, they are all different. To compare more clearly on this issue, below we would like to quote a comparison and criticism between the theory of fate and karma in the book Opening the Door to Liberation, compiled by Zen Master Thich Ton Tuesday. In the conclusion of the critique, page 64, the Venerable made the following comparison and criticism: talking about fate is vague and not authentic. Karma is a clear reality. The theory of fate makes people irresponsible for their actions. Karma teaches people to accept responsibility for all good and bad consequences that come to them. Fate makes people passive, negative and reckless. Karma builds people to be proactive, positive, effortful and creative. Fate teaches people to be weak and surrender. Karma shows us to try, be courageous and advance. The fate is appropriate for the feudal monarchy. Karma is appropriate for a time of liberal democracy. Applying the theory of karma in life, we see ourselves as massive, proud, and full of power in the creation of humans and the universe. 3. The issue of praying for people about to die.
Question: I heard about rebirth, especially for the dying, but I don't understand how to properly protect the rebirth. And what must be done to benefit the dead in rebirth? Dear teacher, please be happy and teach us so we can understand clearly.
Answer: This is a very important issue for those who practice the Pure Land method and recite Buddha's name to seek rebirth. Those whose pure karma has matured, in their current life they have recited Buddha's name, attained the samadhi of Buddha's name, that is, their mind is undisturbed, and the holy state has already appeared, then protecting and reciting is no longer necessary. Because they have already been reborn in this life. Actually, in this age of the end of Dharma, for this type of people, it is not easy to have. That must be achieved by someone with superior ability and wisdom. In addition, if that is not the case, then at the moment of death, the practice of chanting or supporting chanting is extremely essential. I think we should also learn carefully about this issue. Within the limited scope of the question and answer page, we cannot present all the details. Here, we would only like to briefly present the issue. When life is about to die, or at the end of the road, there are 3 paths to take. One is to go straight to the holy path, to be reborn in the Pure Land immediately. This path is only for extremely good people. 2 is the path to the good path and 3 is the path to the evil path. Even though the path to the good path is good and less painful, it still lingers around, rotating into the human path or the heavenly path. 3rd is the path to the evil path. This is the path to damnation. Eternal suffering, that no one wants to step on. Even though I don't want to, but the evil karma I have created in this life, how can I avoid it? Therefore, for the latter 2 types of people, reciting prayers at the moment of death is extremely important. But how should we protect the thoughts so that the person who is about to die can benefit from rebirth? That is something that people who play the role of guardian, helping those who are about to die, think they should know. The two words, protective mindfulness, mean helping the dying person have mindfulness. This word mindfulness means mindfulness. In other words, we help, protect, them to remember, recite, Buddha, which is the same as reciting Buddha's mind, because reciting Buddha's mind is the main cause of becoming Buddha. Because we want to remind the patient to always remember Buddha, but not remember the worldly conditions, because remembering the worldly conditions means losing mindfulness or pure mindfulness, which is very difficult for rebirth. Therefore, the guardian is a buoy for the dying patient to rely on. Why? Because at this time, the patient's limbs are sore and painful. If he is suffering from an incurable disease, such as cancer, the physical torture caused by the raging pain is truly indescribable. Therefore, their minds are easily distracted. Even if they normally practice reciting Buddha's name, because they have not yet reached maturity, their minds are easily distracted. Therefore, they really need others to protect them. At this time, the patient completely loses all self-control, is mentally confused, has confused thoughts, and has difficulty concentrating on the Buddha's chant. So the guardian must help them focus their mind and return to mindfulness by sincerely and earnestly reciting Buddha's name. What we should remember is that the patient has just stopped breathing, but is not completely dead. His consciousness has not completely left the body, for at least 2 hours, so at this moment, it is still very necessary for protection. Recite Buddha's name, whether a sick person can be reborn or not, in addition to their daily practice of mindfulness, is largely due to this moment of protection. Therefore, relatives or descendants in the family are the main factors that help keep their loved ones from falling into misery. If at this important moment, relatives or friends do not know how to support their thoughts, not only will they not recite Buddha's name to help their loved ones become more mindful, but on the contrary, it will also cause them more confusion and anxiety. Sadness, etc., is extremely harmful and dangerous. Therefore, if people truly love their loved ones, they should only clasp their hands together and sincerely recite Buddha's name. In addition, one should not have attitudes or words that offend the dying patient. Because now more than ever, sick people are easily upset and angry. The best way at this moment is to have at least one person who knows how to assist in chanting, to help and advise relatives and friends on everything. This person is very necessary. Because the relatives of the dying person were all very confused and sad. They were no longer calm enough to help the patient, therefore, according to our experience, there must be someone who understands everything about reciting, standing by the patient's side, both reminding the patient to recite Buddha's name and advising them to stay alert with contextual Dharma words. To patients increase their faith and are more likely to concentrate on reciting Buddha's name. Therefore, these guardians must take turns reciting Buddha's name continuously, and, depending on the situation, skillfully use various means to help patients and their relatives. This is really necessary and important. The caregiver must have compassion, kindness, and patience towards the patient. That is to show the compassion, altruism, kindness, and nobility of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. In short, in order for the practice of praying for rebirth to achieve high results, in our opinion, it is necessary to meet the necessary conditions for implementation, through 3 important factors as follows: I, the guardian, 2. Patient, 3. Relatives and friends, I. The guardian, for the guardian, he plays a key and very important role in protecting the chant, so it is necessary to understand this chant. Here are the things that guardians need to know. 1. You should advise relatives and make all necessary arrangements while praying for the dying patient. The most taboo is to cause chaos and cry at this moment. For those who cannot restrain their emotions, it is better to invite them to step out and not let the patient hear their cries. 2. Attitude and manners, especially speech towards the sick person, must be gentle and sweet. We should encourage the patient to remember Buddha's name, and we should recall the merits that the patient has performed. 3. In addition to reciting the Buddha's name and reminding the patient, absolutely do not say anything else that will make the patient unhappy. Easily lose faith and become confused. 4. Depending on the case and the situation where the patient lies, flexibly recite Buddha's name loudly or softly. It is best to only recite Buddha's name so that the patient can hear it, not too softly and not too loudly. According to experience, the louder the chanting is, the less clearly the patient can hear. It's best to recite just enough for the patient to hear. And when reciting, you must recite all 6 words, Namo Amitabha Buddha. You must recite slowly and each word clearly. 5. We must take turns reciting Buddha's name continuously without interruption. We should encourage relatives to take turns reciting Buddha's name. In the hospital room. In addition to the sound of reciting Buddha's name, you must absolutely keep quiet and do not talk loudly to distract the patient's mind. 6. When the patient has really stopped breathing, leave it like that and sincerely recite Buddha's name continuously. Do not touch or move the patient, for at least 2 hours. This is very important, we need to pay attention. Because when the patient first stops breathing, the consciousness has not yet left the body. So be very careful about this issue. There are many other details, but here we would only like to point out 6 important things that the guardian needs to remember while chanting. 2. The patient is the main factor in deciding his or her life. This is an important moment for me to decide on my choice. If you are an affiliated person who has made a vow to recite Buddha's name and pray for rebirth, then during a serious illness, you should let go of all worldly conditions and not worry about any problems, especially family matters, the house, and children, grandchildren, etc. No one loves you as much as you love yourself. Before the moment of separation, even if that person is the most beloved person in your life, they cannot replace anything for you. In the loneliness and despair, death is so close to me, I wonder what else I am greedy for, regretful about. Thinking like that, I should devote all my remaining strength and resolve to recite Buddha's name to seek rebirth in the West, according to my original vow of rebirth. Remember the sincere advice of Venerable Tien Dao, the second patriarch of Lin Tong. He often advised those practicing Pure Land and reciting Buddha's name as follows: when people who recite Buddha's name are about to finish their journey and want to be born in the Pure Land, the essential point is not to be afraid of death. You must often think that this body is filthy and surrounded by so many sufferings. If you can give up your illusory body and be born in ultimate bliss, receive a pure diamond body, you will be free from the cycle of samsara and suffering, and enjoy peace and joy. For example, giving up an old, tattered shirt in exchange for something precious, what could be more satisfying than that? Thinking like that, completely let go of body and mind, no longer worried, sad or attached. As soon as he got sick, he immediately thought about impermanence, and wholeheartedly recited Buddha's name and waited for death. You should tell your relatives not to show sadness and discuss the good and bad things in the house. If anyone comes to visit, I only advise you to recite Buddha's name for yourself, don't ask about anything else. That is, we quote a passage of his recommendation, so that we can remember and wholeheartedly recite Buddha's name. You should know that Patriarch Tien Dao is the reincarnation of Amitabha Buddha. His teachings are truly passionate and compassionate. This is the general advice of the Patriarch, it does not necessarily mean only mutual existence. If anyone listens to his advice and sincerely practices it with all their heart and wholeheartedly recites the Buddha's name, they will also benefit from being reborn in the Pure Land. Please think about the future happiness or suffering of your life, and try to let go of everything. There is only one path ahead, which is to recite the Buddha's name and pray to be reborn in the Pure Land. Remember Amitabha Buddha's original vow that he is always ready to welcome us. That is the main focus that dying patients need to remember and practice to benefit themselves. 3. Relatives and friends. Whether or not a sick person can be reborn, relatives play an equally important role. If you truly love your loved ones, in this moment of deciding whether life will be happy or miserable, you should follow the teachings of the Buddhas. We would like to sincerely offer a few general recommendations, through a few essential things as follows. This, 1, must show an attitude of respect and kindness and absolutely must not use words that disrupt harmony in the family. Absolutely, housework should not be discussed. If the patient is allowed to know about the unfortunate events that happen, it will cause great harm to their rebirth, because the patient will be depressed, greedy, angry, and ignorant, and easily fall into the evil path like an arrow. 2, must follow and listen to the reminders and arrangements of the person responsible for protecting their loved ones. These people, they wholeheartedly support their loved ones, so we need to respect their advice. 3. Do not cry loudly or recite anything, just recite Buddha's name. We must try to contain our emotions in this moment. Remember that this is an important factor, whether or not the person who has just passed away can be reborn depends on their relatives. 4. For the sake of the deceased, everyone should sincerely recite Buddha's name and chant prayers for the deceased throughout the period from the time of death until the 49 days. 5. During the mourning period, you should cultivate many blessings to dedicate so that the deceased can soon be reborn and transformed. As for relatives and friends, we should also pay attention. There is a proverb that says, "A horse that hurts the whole ship doesn't eat grass." Or, the best of the family, the superiority of the hegemonic family. Meaning, one family has a problem, hundreds of families all care and help. Therefore, when they hear that their close friend is seriously ill, their friends often come to visit. I came to visit out of love for you. Therefore, if you really love your friend in this important moment, you should only join forces with others to recite Buddha's name in unison. If we are not used to reciting, we should not talk about anything else. Because like that, it will only make your friend who is lying waiting to die even more mentally disturbed. And it won't help anything. So, if we really love our friend, we should just keep quiet. If so, not only will the patient benefit, but the patient's relatives will also be very grateful to us. Please everyone pay attention to this matter. Don't cause harm to the sick person because of your emotional habits, who need our practical support. If not, then we feel very sorry for our friend. They are desperate for our help, like a drowning person hoping for us to save them. I hope so. 4. After death, is karma still present or lost?
Question: Dear teacher, after I die, is my karma still gone? I don't understand this issue clearly, please enlighten me.
Answer: Let me tell you right away, after people die, their karma is never lost. Unless, people in this world have completely eliminated their mental karma. To put it clearly, only those who have attained enlightenment can see, the nature of karma is inherently empty. However, once karma has been created, there must of course be karma. Even though that person has attained enlightenment. In a case like the Buddha, you still have to pay the penalty. He also had to pay the golden spear and horse circuit retribution. And like the case of Patriarch Huika having to be imprisoned, or Venerable Maudgalyana being beaten to death by thugs. However, for them, when repaying karma, it is different than for us. We repay our karma in agony, crying and groaning. For them, there is no suffering at all. Why? Because they clearly saw the 5 aggregates of emptiness. If that's the case, what's the point of paying or not paying? Therefore, their karma repayment is like a game, there is nothing to worry about or fear. Saying that, we can see that once karma has been created, it will never be lost. If you say so, then karma, can't it be changed? Of course, it can be transferred. If we can't change it, then why should we practice? Remember, when we move, we change heavy things into light ones. It is impossible to change what is, completely into what is not. Kin said, suppose a tyrannical tribulation. The Department of Operations is immortal, fate and fate meet, retribution is self-fulfilling, roughly translated, even after hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, the place to create karma is not lost, when destiny comes, retribution is yours to bear, like that, how can it be completely lost? We would like to reiterate, so that Buddhists do not have to doubt, although karma is not lost, if we know how to practice and repent, we can change heavy karma into light karma. For example, Mr. A, out of anger, hit Mr. B and was seriously injured. Mr. B and Mr. B's relatives would have found a way to take revenge on Mr. A to relieve their anger, but Mr. A later realized his mistake. The wrong he had caused, he immediately went to Mr. B to beg, asking Mr. B to forgive him. So, instead of beating Mr. A to get revenge, Mr. B instead saw that Mr. A had expressed remorse and repented of his mistakes, so Mr. B forgave him. Instead of hitting Mr. A, Mr. B only used harsh words and blamed Mr. A. Mr. B said it to relieve his anger, not to the point of having to beat Mr. A in revenge. That means Mr. A has converted heavy karma into light karma. Changing careers is like that. As for Mr. A's act of seriously injuring Mr. B, it will never be lost in Mr. B's heart. Because of that act of beating, karma, it will never be lost. Although Mr. B has forgiven, in his heart he will never forget. Let me give another example, like there are 3 families located on the same street. In those 3 families, Mr. A works as a teacher, Mr. B works as a doctor, and Mr. C works as an engineer. Suddenly one day, all 3 houses burned down, all furniture and possessions in the house were destroyed, only the people in those 3 families were still alive. So, even though their houses and possessions burned down, did the careers of those 3 men burn out? The teacher still continues to practice teaching. The doctor continues to practice medicine. And the engineer continues to practice as before, thus, to prove that everything that has form is destroyed and destroyed, but the profession without form is never lost. Through this example, we can see that tomorrow when we or our loved ones die, the karma we have created will never be lost, it will follow us like a shadow. If we practice pure karma, we will be reborn in the pure land. Because we still have karma, we can say that we are reborn, but we cannot say that we are not born. Therefore, cause and effect never go wrong. At this point, we would also like to clarify further, otherwise when you read or hear in the Doctrine of Evidence, by Venerable Vin Jia Huin Jiak, it says, the moment of cessation rejects abhikarma. That is, he said that the karma of avicii, that is, the unbroken hell, only disappears in a single moment. If you don't understand this, you will become confused, doubtful and think that there is a contradiction. Remember, Master Huin Jiak said, that he stands on the stance of the Supreme Vehicle teachings, belonging to the Lu Nia Sutra. People read that sentence but forget the first verse of the song, prove the true appearance of no Dharma. That is, a person who realizes the true form. That is, formless, then what is the abhikarma? Because, coming here is a person who has attained enlightenment, living fully with the absolute truth, so we can see very clearly, emptiness of humanity and emptiness of Dharma. So, what is the difference between karma and emptiness? That is the ultimate view, beyond the treatment of enlightened people, as mentioned above, for them it is not seen, but it does not mean there is no avicii hell. Yes is yes, for those who are still ignorant and ignorant. Otherwise, nothing is nothing, for those who have fully realized the Dharmakaya, which means there is no longer any ignorance or delusion. Understanding this, we will no longer have doubts and conflicts with each other. In short, because we know clearly that karma is not lost, Buddhists make every effort to cultivate blessings so that in the future they will be reborn in a good land and enjoy good retributions. If they lose it, who will cultivate good deeds? What? People who do not believe in karma cause great harm to themselves and society, because they always create bad karma. Once you have created evil karma, you will spend eternity in a sea of suffering. What a pain! 5. If a person dies suddenly, what will be the karmic result?
Question, dear teacher, if a person is about to die and there are many people chanting sutras and reciting Buddha's name, then that person will recite Buddha's name, so after death he will be reborn in a good realm. On the contrary, what about those who have accidents and die unexpectedly? Dear teacher, please answer this question clearly for me.
Answer. Although Buddhists worry a bit about this question, on closer inspection it is quite legitimate. But Buddhists don't worry, because in the past, during Buddha's time, there was also a person who asked Buddha questions, just like Buddhists today ask us. In the past, Mahanam was a cousin of the Buddha. When the Buddha returned to the royal palace to educate his relatives, he came to ask the Buddha to let him take refuge in keeping the 5 precepts and practice the 10 good deeds. Buddha praised his dedication and gave him his wish. From that day on, he became a very devout upasaka. One day, he raised that problem and asked Buddha. He thought that, after all his life he followed Buddha's teachings and practiced. Suddenly one day, an accident happened and he died suddenly. If so, where would his consciousness be born? Is it depraved? Because of death like that, there is no one to protect you so you can escape. The Buddha did not answer his question directly, but asked the opposite. Mahanam, suppose there is a tree, which is already leaning, and suddenly one day someone comes to cut it, where will that tree fall? Dear world-honored one, whichever way a tree leans, when the trunk is cut, it will fall in that direction, Buddha taught. In the same way, every day you often create good karma. When you die, you will follow good karma and be reborn in a good realm. On the contrary, if someone creates bad karma every day, when they die, they will be reborn in an evil realm. Not sudden death is hell. When we die, our karma is not lost, but our consciousness, according to good or bad karma, is born into a good or evil realm. The important thing is that every day we should review ourselves, whether we have created a lot of good karma or a lot of bad karma. Whatever karma my life is heavy on now, when I close my eyes I will follow that karma. Based on the Buddha's teachings to Mahanam in the Aham Sutra, we should not be afraid. When we die suddenly, we do not know whether we will be reborn in a good place or not. If we apply this problem to real life, we can see it clearly. People have a habit of reciting Buddha's name, and if suddenly someone startles them, they immediately chant Buddha's name. So that Mo Buddha language, they don't need to think about it. Due to their daily, habitual karma and accumulated karma, they automatically emit it like that. On the contrary, people who have a karmic habit of cursing and swearing, if suddenly someone makes them angry, they will automatically curse out loud, without having to think. For example, 2 people are going the same way, one person is addicted to gambling. One person likes to play ornaments. When passing by, there is a garden displaying all kinds of ornamental flowers. People who like ornamental plants immediately stop by to see. Meanwhile, people who like to play red and black don't pay any attention to that ornamental flower garden, but they go straight to the card house to play. Likewise, death is the same, but depending on each person's good or evil karma, rebirth is different. And the important thing is in the habit of karma and accumulation of karma. When these 2 karmas are matured, they will lead to ultimate karma. This means that karma that is heavy will be pulled away first. Heavy good karma will pull that person onto a good path. On the contrary, heavy evil karma will also drag that person down an evil path. Everyone follows the law of cause and effect. No one rewards or punishes us, but only our good and evil karma leads us. So Buddhists should not be afraid, just try to cultivate and create many blessings, then when you die, you will follow the good path. Although it is not as favorable as when you die and someone protects you and reminds you, because at that time, your faith in Buddha is stronger, so you will be reborn in the Buddha realm. But there is one thing, according to Buddha's teachings to Mr. Mahanam above, he will definitely not fall into the evil path. We respectfully wish Buddhists to practice diligently, so as not to be afraid that after an unfortunate death, they will fall into an evil path. 6. The custom of burning joss paper money.
Question, dear teacher, is the custom of burning paper and joss paper money a part of Buddhism? Or was it made up by someone? A friend asked me a question like that, but I didn't understand. I respectfully request you to be happy and give me a clear answer.
Answer, I would like to answer unequivocally that this custom is not introduced by Buddhism. As far as we know, this is a long-standing custom among the people. Tracing the origin of this custom of burning joss paper money, we find it originated in ancient times in Chinese society. According to Tang dynasty thinker Wang Yu, since the Han dynasty, there has been a custom of burying money and later generations using paper as money. According to the simple belief of the Chinese people in ancient times, people believe that the dead do not completely disappear but turn into ghosts. The concept of death riding devil was formed during the Five Dynasties period, about more than 2000 years BC. From this concept, people believe that the dead are the same as the living, that is, birth is like death. What people spend when they are alive, they will also need when they die. Because of this belief, after death, the deceased's relatives bury necessary items, including money, for the deceased to spend. This is how they express their deep love. As they live, so will they when they die, according to archaeologists, they have discovered from excavations and have confirmed this. But later, people found that burying real objects and money was too wasteful, so gradually people discovered ways to use objects and money to make fake objects and paper. Fake, for the dead to spend, thus. Burning paper money in joss paper is a Chinese custom, originating from ancient times. Of course, this custom has a great influence on the spirit of expressing deep emotions of the Chinese people. From there it spread, affecting countries that were influenced by their civilized lifestyle and culture. Vietnam is one of the countries most deeply affected, because Vietnam has spent a long time being ruled by them. It is necessary to clearly state that this practice, from the Buddhist perspective, is a wasteful and uselessly expensive job. Because Buddhism believes that a person who dies within 49 days at the latest, will definitely be reborn in different realms of good and evil, depending on his karma, because of what that person has created in his current life. In different realms, the objects of each species depend on their karma, and they also use them differently. Therefore, it is impossible to bring things from the human realm to provide for sentient beings in other realms. So, how can they enjoy it? For example, we are the same human race living on the same earth, just different boundaries, but money from one country cannot be brought to another country to be spent. If you want to spend it, you need to exchange it. So, if paper money is burned into ashes, how can the dead receive it to spend? This is just to show the compassion and filial piety of the living towards the deceased. This work comes from the respectful wishes of the living, wanting the dead to be fully happy. But for Buddhism, this practice is completely unacceptable. Because it does not bring any benefit to the dead, but only wastes money, effort and causes more environmental pollution. Sometimes carelessness will cause fire accidents, for Buddhists, because they do not understand Buddhist teachings and do not have a clear and thorough belief in cause and effect, they sometimes burn paper money and joss paper for the dead. Instead of spending money to buy and burn paper and joss paper. Why don't we do other things that have more practical and concrete benefits, such as freeing animals and giving alms to the disabled and poor, etc.? By doing these deeds and dedicating merit to the souls of the dead, how much benefit the dead will receive. This is the correct practice of yin and yang, two benefits, in accordance with the perspective of compassion and wisdom of Buddhism. As Buddhists, we should listen to the Buddha's teachings and avoid useless superstitious actions that only cause more damage to ourselves. 7. The problem of worshipping Mr. Jia and the god of wealth.
Question: Dear teacher, I have had a question for a long time. You often say that after Buddhists take refuge, they can only worship Buddha at home. However, I see that there are many Buddhists in the house who still worship Mr. Jia and Mr. Then Tai. I want to know the origin of Mr. Jia and Mr. Tai, which Buddhists must worship. And is it wrong to worship like that? I hope you will be happy to answer so I can understand.
Answer: through the questions of Buddhists only raise them within the scope of their own Buddhists, so we would only like to answer and remind within the limits of our own Buddhists. Besides that, we don't dare mention anyone. That is, we respect each person's beliefs. There are many Buddhists who take refuge without paying attention or remembering what the monks taught during the refuge ceremony. When taking refuge, the monks follow the sutra, which clearly states and teaches, in the 3 refuges, the first refuge is taking refuge in Buddha. Taking refuge in Buddha, Buddhists vow to take refuge in Buddha for the rest of their lives, absolutely not taking refuge in gods. gods, demons, or objects. That is the Buddhist vow made before the three jewels. However, after taking refuge, perhaps, because he was so busy and worried about many business matters, that Buddhist forgot what he had vowed to do, and now he invited Mr. Jia, and Mr. the God of Wealth is worshipped at home. Second, I still remember, but because I can't give up the custom of worshipping these gods. Because I want to worship these gods to help Buddha, to protect me and my family to always be safe, to buy and sell at high prices, and money to flow like water. If you really worship the God of Wealth and he protects you and makes you rich, with money pouring into your pocket, then the producers of the God of Wealth must be very rich. Unmatched by anyone in the world. Let's ask these guys, are they really rich? And does the God of Wealth really bless them? Or maybe those guys have to work hard to make money. Saying so, let's Buddhists see that, although that Buddhist has taken refuge in the three jewels, their belief in the three jewels and belief in cause and effect are not solid. This is also a common disease of most of us Buddhists. We do not have enough faith in the three jewels and the principle of cause and effect, so there is a situation of worshipping this or that person. Coming back to the issue, Buddhists ask about the origin of these two men. According to my research, until today, people have not clearly confirmed the origin of these two gods. Roughly speaking, there are many different perspectival theories. Here, I would just like to point out some general features about the origin of this worship practice. In fact, the practice of worshipping gods among Vietnamese people has existed for a long time. It can be said that since the Vietnamese people existed, there has been a religion of worshipping God. Like other ethnic groups, Vietnamese people believe that each phenomenon has a god who governs it. Like Earth God, also known as Earth God, is the god who governs the land in the garden and home area. In folklore, there is a saying, the land has Tho Tsong, the river has Ha Ba. In addition to Tho Tsong, other gods are also worshipped at home such as God of Wealth, Tien Su, Tien Chu, Duk Ton Quan, etc. Tho Tsong is a very important god worshipped by people. Because this god looks after the family and plans good fortune. If the family wants to have peace, and the fields and gardens want to be prosperous, all are watched over and blessed by the God of Earth. Regarding the worship image, it is sometimes a fat old man, Mr. Jia, with a pot belly, a gentle face, and a relaxed smile. At times, the Tho Jia statue is shown in the form of white beard and hair, wearing a long dress, a crow-beaked hat, and a white beard. The reason why there are such different images is due to the cultural influence of each region. Taoists attach great importance to and diligently worship this god. As for the God of Wealth, according to folk customs, this god brings fortune to everyone. Usually, businessmen and traders worship this god very highly. This is a practice of faith, followed in the past and now followed, so we continue to worship, and whether or not it is inspired depends on the believer. Regarding the altar of these two gods, people only worship in a hidden corner of the house or shop. There is no need to arrange it in a high place. Usually in Vietnam, there are some places where people worship these two gods together, not separately, because according to them, wealth and profit must go together. Earth God belongs to profit, God Wealth belongs to wealth. When worshipping together, we see a pair of parallel sentences pasted in front of the altar of the two of them like this: Earth energy produces white jade, Earth energy produces gold. Meaning, the earth often produces good pearls, and pure gold also comes from the earth. Scattered throughout the Buddhist scriptures, there are sometimes mentions of gods. The Ksitigarbha Sutra also mentions many gods. However, according to Buddhism, demon god is also one of many species of living beings. Therefore, Buddha taught Buddhists not to take refuge with demon gods. Buddhists, after taking refuge in the three jewels, should only set up one Buddha altar in their home, and if they worship more, they should only worship their ancestors, grandparents or parents. In addition, one should not worship any other god. Because worshipping like that is contrary to Buddha's teachings. If I resisted, of course, I was at fault. If we are Buddhists, we should pay attention to this issue. Only then will we be worthy of our name as true Buddhists, cultivating and studying Buddhism. 8. Issues of age and fate in marriage.
Question: Dear teacher, I see that there are many Buddhist families. The husband and wife are also highly educated, their family finances are quite adequate, but for some reason their families are not happy. Husband and wife keep fighting and quarreling with each other all the time. So, is it because their ages are not compatible? Or is it because of their destiny and karma that they have to suffer such retribution? Please explain to me clearly what this case is like.
Answer: This is the case in almost all families, to a greater or lesser extent. The issue of marital happiness cannot be completely determined on the issue of knowledge, and it is not caused by age or material economy. If you believe like that, it is not enough to build family happiness. High education and adequate economic conditions are just one of many other factors. Although these two factors are very necessary in a couple's life. In addition to these two factors, it also requires many other factors. According to Buddhism, it is necessary to meet all conditions. When it comes to causes and conditions, of course there must be right causes and supporting causes or supporting conditions. For example, understanding and loving are the right causes. In addition, other factors can be said to be supporting conditions. Here, I think, we also need to clearly state the definition and stance of Buddhism consistently and consistently. Buddhism, in addition to promoting the principle of cause and effect, never advocates that Buddhists believe in anything other than superstitious beliefs, especially in matters of fortune-telling, age and time. Good or bad to judge and predict destiny in the past, present, and future. Buddhism advocates and always encourages Buddhists to deeply believe in the principle of cause and effect karma, with the purpose being for us to find the cause of bad karma, from which we can find all ways to overcome, transform, and correct these causes. Bad to become good. At the same time, it also transforms bad karma into good karma. Only then can our lives become more sublimated and better. Therefore, according to Buddhism, the things that happen when the rice is not good, the soup is not sweet, and the harmony in the family is not due to age incompatibility, but is due to each person's karmic habits accumulated in different environments. Different life environments, which people often say are incompatible personalities. When we say our personalities are not compatible, we have to look for the cause, the reason why. If it is said that, due to age, there should have been conflicts from beginning to end, why is it sometimes compatible, sometimes incompatible? When you're happy, it's compatible, when you're sad, it's annoying. When you like it, it's compatible, when it's not, it's forbidden. So, what is the cause of this conflict and discord? Why does everyone refuse to learn about themselves, instead blaming age? From childhood to adulthood, before becoming husband and wife, each person has a different life situation. No one is exactly the same. Only compatible in certain aspects, such as education level, interests, personality. This is just the beginning of compatibility. Compatible in that early, nostalgic time. The first step is always very beautiful. Because both sides keep their flaws and bad qualities a secret. No one dares to reveal their true identity to the other person. But when they become husband and wife and live together for a while, then many incompatible things appear. These incompatible things are deeply hidden, making it difficult for both of them to find each other. If you know each other well from the beginning, your marriage wish will be difficult to come true. So, both have to hide, but when living together, each person's unique karma and personality become clear. From then on, the two realized there were many disagreements. And things are no longer as expected. And from then on, the Cold War began to break out. So what is the cause of discord that causes this war? Because both of them refuse to find out, because if they find out, each person will reveal their bad truth, then because of ego, because of self-love, now the only way to blame it is on age, on grandparents. The fate of the moon is not correct, or it is due to ironic karma, etc. That means we have to find every way to escape the crime and blame ourselves as much as possible. But no one is willing to re-examine their own mistakes. Buddhism, with the view of wisdom, cannot accept this avoidance and blaming. I wonder if there is anyone in the world who pleases me. Even if we ourselves are sometimes not satisfied with ourselves, then no one can satisfy us. Thus, it is clearly not due to age conflict, but due to many other factors. What factors cause discord? That is what Buddhists need to trace to the source of that discord. In this world, nothing is without a cause. We often suffer from subjective illness. The disease of subjectivity is the child of the disease of ego attachment. Because of ego, everything I do is right. All mistakes are caused by the other person. But we do not understand the root cause of our own problems. If you want to transform your body and mind, from bad seeds to good seeds, you need wisdom. Wisdom or mindfulness is very essential in life. When wisdom or mindfulness intervenes promptly, negative consequences are unlikely to occur. When things happen, we must find the cause, not blame it indiscriminately. Why must anger cause loss of harmony in the family? For what reason? Is it due to age or hot nature? Or because of something else, I can't find out. Why do we often blame others? Why do we often blame others for our sins? Buddhism teaches that life is formed by karma, and karma comes back to govern our lives. Like a hot-tempered person. When touched, the fire of anger rises up and burns others. The hot-tempered nature is a habit that comes from training, its nature is empty. Therefore, when encountering adverse conditions or things that are not as desired, one becomes angry, and when one is satisfied, one calms down, so, that hot-tempered nature is not real. Although it is not real, it is the cause that governs our lives. Happiness is ruined, mostly because one of the two lacks composure. From losing one's temper and lack of clarity, the fire of anger arises and burns ragingly. So from small to big. Therefore, Buddha taught, Buddhists need to regularly practice to transform their body and mind. If you want to transform your body and mind, from bad seeds to good seeds, you need wisdom. Wisdom or mindfulness is very essential in life. When wisdom or mindfulness intervenes promptly, negative consequences are unlikely to occur. When things happen, we must find the cause, not blame it indiscriminately. Why must anger cause loss of harmony in the family? For what reason? Is it due to age or hot nature? Or because of something else, I can't find out. Why do we often blame others? Why do we often blame others for our sins? When two people are in disagreement, calmly sit down to think. Find the cause in the spirit of reconciliation and harmony to find ways to establish understanding, and don't compete with each other. Only by finding the cause will we be able to understand and sympathize with each other, and from there we will be able to resolve all disagreements, and then love and respect each other. If these two elements, understanding and love, are lacking, it is difficult to be open, happy and let go, living together in harmony. Life is a long series of repaying karma and creating karma. Karma created in the past and in the present, of course, cannot be undone. But karma, we can change, once we have clearly found the cause of the karma. The basic nature of karma is indeterminate. Karma always changes in a good or evil direction, depending on the actions of body, speech, and mind that each individual causes. Even though the breakdown of marriage has the involvement of past karma, it is not completely decisive. But most of it is caused by current karma. Therefore, if you want to learn about karma, you must base it on the time dimension. But the present time is what is important, so that we can adjust our direction for the present and the future. In short, when it comes to family happiness, you need to act delicately in many matters. Each person needs to have a sharp look with wisdom in dealing with each other. Because we live together, we cannot avoid having different personalities. To be able to reconcile that disagreement, there is only one bridge connecting the two ends together, which is understanding and love. Only with understanding and love can we respect and tolerate each other. Without this bridge, it is difficult to have sympathy. Without understanding each other, it is very difficult to get along. Because by learning about temperament, interests, and other different personalities, we can understand and love each other more. From there, all conflicts and disagreements can be transformed and flow into a stream of love and happiness. Only then can Buddhists have the hope of building a solid, happy home and family. Only with happiness can we enjoy the joys of these temporary days, in this life full of suffering and consequences. 9. What are the benefits and harms of organ donation?
Question: Dear teacher, organ donation is a very noble deed, but as ordinary people like us, how beneficial is this deed? Because according to the Master's teachings, after death, if the consciousness has not left the body, anger can easily arise if the body is touched. Dear teacher, please let me know how to do this job perfectly.
Answer: donating body organs after death is due to the person's wish. Not everyone can do this noble gesture. This is the great generosity of the Bodhisattva. Because almsgiving has internal and external resources. External resources are giving things outside one's body, such as money, possessions, etc. On the contrary, internal wealth is giving away body parts, such as donating blood or any other healthy part. Speaking of benefits, after death, whether burned or buried, a person's body must disintegrate. Instead of uselessly disintegrating, people volunteer to donate certain parts of their bodies that are still good so that medical scientists can research, experiment, and then treat them. That is a very useful thing for humanity. It must be said that this is a vast vow of the Bodhisattva, which ordinary people cannot do. Because when Bodhisattvas are alive, they take advantage of their healthy bodies to benefit others. When they die, they also think of everyone and donate parts of their bodies to save the lives of those who are suffering. Who is unlucky enough to have a serious and dangerous illness, with such a noble altruistic wish, how can having anger be harmful? If it is harmful, provided that the person does not have a vow, but people naturally dissect and mutilate a certain part of their body, then that is truly contact, causing harm. Harmful to the newly deceased. And so, it is certain that the consciousness of that newly deceased person will be angry and bring bad consequences. That is very harmful. On the contrary, there is nothing harmful at all. Not only is it not harmful, it also brings great practical benefits to the living, because it saves lives. As for ordinary people, because they are so ignorant and cling to ego, when they are alive, they only think about things that benefit themselves, providing for their bodies every need for prosperity. Even after death, he still regrets his body and does not want his body to be destroyed. Those are the type of people who are too selfish, only knowing about themselves and not thinking about anyone else. They consider their bodies heavier than Mount Meru. People like that, while alive, do nothing to benefit anyone, not even a very small deed. People like that, their lives are of no benefit to society at all. In society, we see many rich people with money in the treasury, but because they have no compassion, they never know how to have mercy and help anyone. When they were alive, they worried about building a solid career for themselves. When they were about to die, they worried about leaving their last thoughts to their children and grandchildren, building a solid and luxurious mausoleum for them. Even though I knew in advance that it was just burying a rotten corpse. Those are the type of people that Buddha called greedy and ignorant, with too much attachment to self. On the contrary, for those who despise their ego, when they live they benefit everyone, even when they die, they still think about benefiting everyone. Indeed, this is not an ordinary type of person, easily found in human society. However, people who wish to donate their organs should, in my opinion, clearly explain their wishes to their family members, so as not to encounter possible obstacles after death. On the other hand, the bereaved family should also clearly tell the monks and nuns about the patient's wish to donate their organs during the moment of prayer. When the patient is in a dying state or at the time of burial. The purpose is to remind the patient of his altruistic and noble vows when he was alive, and wholeheartedly support the hospital staff in carrying out the task of organ removal. In short, when you say organ donation, you have already made a vow. Having made such a vow, there is no need to be angry. Because other people only do what they have vowed to do. So, this is completely beneficial and not harmful at all. 10. The problem of eating 5 spices.
Question, dear teacher, I don't understand why Buddhists cannot eat the 5 spices when fasting. How harmful is it to eat 5 spices without eating it? Dear teacher, please kindly answer, so that we can understand clearly.
Answer. According to the Northern Buddhist tradition, also known as developmental Buddhism, Buddhists who are vegetarian should abstain from the 5 spices. 5 spice tan are 5 spices with a pungent smell including onion, kach thong, chives, tu thong, garlic, daitone, kio, orchid, and hung siu. Scientific name is Allium fistulosum, a type of spice. The taste and appearance are similar to compressed tubers, not found in China and Vietnam. The reason why Buddhists should not eat these things is because of the properties of these things, which contain many stimulants and pungent flavors. If eaten in large quantities, the body will smell bad, become impatient and get sick. Sexual arousal. Therefore, in the Shurangama Sutra, Volume 8, the Buddha taught, beings seeking samadhi should not eat the 5 spicy dishes of the world. Because of those 5 spicy dishes, if you eat them cooked, you'll have sex, if you eat them raw, you'll get angry. Whoever eats those 5 spicy dishes, even if he has the talent to preach the 12 sutras, the gods of the 10 directions will criticize them for their stench and stay away from them. The demons saw people eating those foods and immediately came to lick their lips and lips, so they often lived with the demons. The blessings of those who eat the 5 foods every day gradually disappear. Bodhisattvas and good gods from the 10 directions do not come to support that person. Therefore, in the Brahma Vong Sutra, the lower volume, Buddha taught, as a Buddhist, you are not allowed to eat the 5 spices. If anyone intentionally eats it, he commits a contemptible sin. However, according to the Department of Medicine, 5 spice contains many active ingredients that increase the body's resistance and are used to prevent and treat diseases. The latest research from the World Health Organization, WHO, shows that garlic and onions have the ability to cure colds, heart disease and cancer, etc. Therefore, for the purpose of preventing or treating diseases, to some extent, vegetarian Buddhists can also use it. According to the Great Tang records of the Western regions, of Tripitaka Dharma Master Xuanzang, the monks in the Western regions, if anyone is seriously ill, according to the doctor's instructions, they must use the 5 spice tan, which is temporary, but must be used. Live alone, isolated. After the illness is over, you must bathe and change your clothes before being allowed to live with the Sangha. This, people who practice esoteric Buddhism and specialize in reciting mantras are absolutely not allowed to eat. Because eating these types of things, reciting mantras will not be effective. But for those who follow the hierarchy, it is different. Because the sutra teachings do not focus on reciting mantras, Buddha did not absolutely forbid it. According to Venerable Tan Tu's answer on this issue, through a question from a Buddhist, recorded in a set of plastic tapes, explaining about the 33 Zen patriarchs of India and China, the Venerable said, Buddhists who follow the hierarchy can still use these things. But as mentioned above, it can only be used to a certain extent, to prevent and treat diseases, and should not be used in excess, which can be counterproductive and harmful to health. Although it is a medicine, if used excessively, it can easily cause harm. In short, abstaining from the 5 new elements is absolutely never used by monastic or lay Buddhists who practice Tantra. On the contrary, Buddhists who follow the sutra teachings do not abstain absolutely. However, if any Buddhist who is vegetarian maintains abstinence from eating, that is also a very good thing.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel Journey to Enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.